This is my 155th video on my work with OO gauge. See part 1 of this series for my reasons for getting into OO gauge when I already had a lot invested in working in N gauge and I didn't really have space available for a large, fully operational OO gauge layout. Also see my series on my N gauge railway modelling for smaller and more complex scenery and smaller scale trains running. This part is another rolling stock unboxing, review and running session. This time of Hornby's 1945 Going Home train pack R3299. This was released in 2015 in a limited edition of 1000, but I've said before I have little interest in Hornby's limited edition nonsense. So far as I can see, they just make as many as they think they can sell, and at least recently, if the initial run sells out, they just make some more. This will likely be my last train pack review, as this is the last one that I have on hand, and there aren't really any other Hornby train packs fitting my pre-World War II LMS prototype that I'm looking to buy. There are a couple that fit my prototype that I don't have, a Royal Scot pack with a Princess Royal Loco and mainline Stanier coaches, and Days of Red and Gold with a streamlined Coronation Loco in crimson and again crimson mainline Stanier coaches. But those both consist of rolling stock that I basically already have, so I'd only buy them if I had an opportunity to pick them up cheaply. Here's the box for this train pack as it came. I bought this locally here in Canada for $399, which I thought was quite a high price, but Hornby's RRP for this set was £289.95, so I actually got it for less than the RRP, and without having to pay shipping from the UK. It's quite a nice-looking, well-presented box. Not as nice as the box for the last single-wheeler train pack, which had a front that hinged up so that you could display the rolling stock itself in the box, together with some information about the prototype. This one is similar to, but perhaps a little nicer than the box for the LMS Suburban train pack. It's certainly a lot nicer than this rather blech style of box that Hornby now seem to be using for most of their train packs. This box does have a good illustration of the rolling stock on the front, and some information about the prototype with an evocative period picture. Here's a close-up of that period picture. It's not really especially relevant to this train pack, as the troops shown are clearly in a clerestory coach, whereas the coaches in this pack are steel Stanier stock. Also, I'm rather doubtful as to whether this picture actually shows troops coming home. It looks more like the return from Dunkirk to me than the end of the war. But still, it does invoke the wartime period, if not particularly the return to peace in 1945. Here's the back of the box. As I've said, my prototype is pre-World War II LMS operations, so why did I buy this pack given that it's based on a 1945 train? Well, yes it is, but the rolling stock included would all have run in the 1930s before the war, so the rolling stock does in fact fit my prototype. Here's the side of the box showing the whole train coupled up. And here's the limited edition certificate. As I've said before, I have no real interest in this limited edition business, but for what it's worth, my pack was apparently number 873 of the edition of 1000. Included was the standard information sheet for this tooling of the Black 5 Loco. This side shows basically general information. And here's the other side showing information about lubrication, body removal, DCC fitting, etc. The rolling stock was embedded in a styrofoam block and wrapped in soft plastic to protect it. Here I've done my best to fold back the protective plastic to show the Loco and coaches in the block. There was a small detail pack with brake rigging and a couple of other small parts. The instructions for the detail parts were in the bag with the parts themselves. I didn't open the bag at this point, but here's the other side, to which a coupling hook and a pipe have wandered. I had rather a hard time extracting the Loco and tender from the packaging. They were jammed in with several small foam blocks as well as being wrapped. And this is a modern detailed model, so you don't want to be handling it roughly at all. As you can see here, there's still a block of foam in the Loco cab to protect it. Here are the Loco and tender finally free of all packaging. This is a model of Black 5 number 5156, named Ayrshire Yeomanry. Of the well over 800 Black 5s that were built, only 5 received names during their regular working lives, though more naming has gone on in preservation. I can't say that I really understand what was behind the decision to name a handful of Locos of this class. 5156 was built by Armstrong Whitworth in 1935, and was given the name Ayrshire Yeomanry in 1936, so it is appropriate to my prototype as seen here. This locomotive was withdrawn in 1968, one of the very last steam locos to be used by British Railways. And sadly it was not preserved, although 18 Black 5s do survive in preservation. And I'm competing with a train behind me now, so I'm going to have to take a break in this recording. Here are the coaches that came with this pack. They are all third class, which I suppose is probably appropriate if this is supposed to represent a troop train. They appear to be pretty much the latest Hornby tooling of Stanier mainline corridor stock. Here's one of the 2 corridor thirds, seen from the corridor side. Here's the other one from the compartment side, with the lavatories at the ends. And here's the brake coach from the compartment side. The Loco and tender are connected by a drawbar which is screwed in place at both ends. I much prefer this arrangement to the version that Bachmann and occasionally Hornby use, where you have to keep a loose pin engaged with a hole in the drawbar. This coupling does still mean that care needs to be taken when handling Loco and tender. Here's the whole train coupled up on my little test track. There was hardly room to move it like this, but I did inch it forwards and backwards, confirming that the Loco operated, which it indeed did, in a very smooth and controllable way. In the box art the Loco appears very glossy, but the actual model has much more of a satin finish. It's very finely detailed, much more so than the older Hornby Black 5s that I have. Fine, separately fitted handrails and pipework, lamp irons, sprung buffers, and finely printed plates. The valve gear's very nicely done also, but delicate, of course, requiring care in handling. The Loco is quite heavy, but the tender weighs almost nothing and seems a bit flimsy. The plastic sides of the tender actually bend in if you grip it by the sides. I got the Loco onto my Hornby layout for running in. Here you can see some of the detail a bit closer. Quite a number of separately fitted parts. Here's a close-up of the nameplate. Unfortunately the flash rather washed it out, and without flash it didn't come out sharp. This was the best I could manage in the way of a picture of the cab detail. There is quite a bit picked out with paint. Note that there are also pre-fitted cab doors and a tender fall plate, but these won't actually meet the tender unless you change the drawbar to the close coupling position, and I don't believe the model would really run round curves like that. Although, as noted, it's very lightweight, the tender does look quite good with separately fitted handrails, steps, etc. I ran the model in for the standard 30 minutes forwards and 30 minutes backwards, using my baby monitor to keep check on it so that I could get on with things in another room. Unfortunately, I did need to respond to the baby monitor a couple of times in this case. The Loco appeared to run fine at first, and did indeed run in for 15 minutes or so, going forwards without problems. but then it derailed on the points, and after I re-railed it, it derailed a couple more times before completing its forward running in. It did run in for its 30 minutes backwards without incident, but then a 460 engine like this will not tend to derail going backwards, as the bogey's then trailing and will tend to self-centre. So I wasn't feeling all that confident about the bogey after the running in. There may have been odd bits of loose ballast that caused derailments, but the bogey didn't really seem very firm on the rails, so I got the model into the servicing cradle on the bench and did a little work on the bogey. I bent the mounting bar for the bogey downwards ever so slightly, just to press the bogey a little more firmly onto the rails, and I cut a 7-gram weight in half and then filed it down so that I could fit it between the wings on the sides of the front of the bogey, in front of the pivot point of the mounting bar. So effectively I added about 3 grams of weight to the front of the bogey. You can see my weight here to the left of the front wheel above the bogey. Well, below here as it's upside down. I got the model back onto the layout and tested it. Unfortunately, it's very hard to tell whether you've made things better with an intermittent issue like this. The Loco only derailed something like once every 40 or 50 circuits during running in, so I'd really have to run it round for hundreds of circuits to confirm whether I'd improved things. I think I should have improved things, as the bogey did seem to sit better on the rails after my modifications, whilst the driving wheels still sat firmly on the rails. Okay, I've adjusted the bogey of this guy a little bit here. Not too much majorly. I had the bogey off. I put a little bit of weight on the front of the bogey where it's clear of the pivot bar, sort of kind of between the supports for the wheels in the middle. I had to, shave a weight down to fit there, basically. And I bent the bar down a bit to give the bogey a little bit more pressure on the track. Whether I've made things better, it's hard to tell. I don't know, we'll see. Well, I mean, part of the problem is it's not easy to tell whether the issue is fixed, because it ran for 15 minutes without derailing before. So... and then after 15 minutes of running without derailing, it derailed on that point. Yeah, I can't really get this camera to focus too well like this. Ah, well, we'll see. As I say, well, I can't really tell whether I've made things better or not, because it's not like the problem, it's not like it... the bogey looks fine now, but it's not like it derailed immediately before. It ran for 15 minutes and then derailed, so, it's hard to say. Nice looking engine. Mostly runs fine. No tendency to derail going backwards, but then of course, then the big bogey's trailing. But a slight tendency after quite a bit of running to occasionally derail going forwards, which I'm hoping I've fixed now, but I'm not sure about. After testing my fixes to the bogey, I railed up the coaches and coupled the Loco to them. Here's the Loco ready to pull that train. I railed the coaches with the corridor side on the left. Here's the first coach. These are quite finely modelled coaches with separately fitted handrails on the ends, full-colour LMS roundels, etc. An interior corridor and compartment details. I railed the 2 corridor thirds first with the brake at the rear, naturally. Here's the centre coach of the train. And here's the brake at the rear. 3 coaches is a fairly small train, but it's really all I can fit on the platforms of the station on this layout anyway. Here's the Loco ready to head off with this train in a non-flash picture. And here with flash trying to show the cab, but it's difficult to see. Now let's finish with some running video of this train. Okay, let's see if we can see this train from the 1945 going home pack running. Here it all is railed up anyway. There's the Ayrshire Yeomanry, Loco, and the 3 Stanier third-class coaches. Little men by the level crossing. So let me see if I can get this to run round properly. I hope my modifications to the bogie have eliminated any derailing problems, although mind you, I didn't actually, I have to admit, remember to vacuum the track again. I should have done, just to try and make sure there's no loose ballast or whatever. That's 40%, let's give it 50%. There we go, that's reasonable speed at 50%. I think that seems quite reasonable as a speed. That's 50% on my Morley controller there. Quite handsome looking coaches. Everything is all basically pristine. I would argue whether some weathering might improve things. But these are not meant to be weathered models. They're all immaculate. I'm just trying to crouch down a bit here for a more realistic angle. Oh, my knees are not really up to a lot of crouching these days, though. It almost seems like we're slowing down around that corner, which I don't. You can see why we slow around that corner, because that's the furthest point from the power point, but the power supply feed is about there. I think it's just slowing down there because of the force, because of the because of the drag from the coaches going round the curve. Because it does definitely seem to be, doesn't it, to be slowing down a little bit around, like around there. Yes, it's as it goes past that signal box, it seems to be going slower. And I don't think it's because there's less power there, because you're not very far from the power feed at all. It's probably because of the drag of the coach. You're pulling the coaches round the curve there, and that increases their drag. Try once more the crouching down approach, and then you'll try and follow the back of the train and stand up again so I can see it down the far end. Well, hopefully, yes, I think we're getting quite smooth running now. That's the corridor side of all the coaches, and then as they go past the other side, you can see the compartment side with the whited out windows at the ends for the lavatories. Well, one whited out window on the brake coach. Those are the lavatories in the various coaches. There's the Ayrshire Yeomanry, built in 1935, named Ayrshire Yeomanry in 1936, so even if I'm pretending this is pre-war, The only thing is I don't know quite why they'd be running an entirely third-class coach pre-war. You'd be more likely to have some first class as well, which I could do. This is exactly what came with the train pack. I could swap out one of those third-class coaches for a composite. I've got composite Stania stock that matches this. Okay, well, I think that'll do to demonstrate running. I think I'm actually going to try and stop it as it comes up the next time. Whoa. Okay. I messed up the zoom so much. Sorry. It's hard to operate the zoom on this camera really smoothly. So I'm going to slow him down, but I'm going to try to have a more reasonable zoom as I do so. There we go. There's the clock chiming, whatever it is, 5 o'clock I think. So there you go. The Hornby's 1945. I keep getting confused whether it's going home or coming home. I think it's going home, isn't it? Train pack. The Black 5 and the 3 Stania coaches. Now, this is the most recent tool in the Black 5, but Hornby are bringing out another Black 5 this year, 2022, supposedly, which they're billing as the ultimate Black 5. And I do have it on pre-order. Perhaps against my better judgment, but I thought I'd see what they did with it. I don't know if you really need any more detail than this one. But we'll see what they come out with when they do come out with it. I'm not really too confident it'll actually appear this year. But for now, there we go.